Yeah. I don't need Bob to start. We'll be all right. How's everyone doing? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll get going. When Bob and I started talking about what to talk about at this event, it was just a smattering of nonsense coming out of my mouth. And I was like, basically, we're just going to be talking turkey about mobile and data. And I don't know why, but that stuck. We just kind of chuckled about it and said, let's talk turkey. Right?
Well, there was more to the story than that. Had something to do with Sean being a turkey. That kind of initiated that whole discussion, and we just decided that if the shoe fits, wear it. So, with no further ado, though, Sean Cleveland, ladies and gentlemen.
Yay.
Yeah, he's gonna do an amazing job for you.
Thanks, Bob.
And if he doesn't, he's never back on stage again. So no pressure.
Fair. No. I don't. I want pressure. It makes me perform.
He's a good friend, actually. I just like the fun.
Taking off my badge so that I'm a little more camera ready since we're live streaming. So again, thank you for hanging out. I want to talk a bit about just a real high-level view of the industry from our point of view, and I'll give you a bit of background on who I am and the company, so you know where the insights and data are coming from. So hey, again, I'm Sean. Very excited to be here. I've been in this world, pushing on 20 years now. Started doing buy-sell trade back in the day at GameStop, and have been around B-Stock now for about 10 years, and have really loved this industry. I've seen a lot of the progression that Nick was talking about in the last session. Many changes over the years, very, very Wild West at the beginning, and it continues to become more and more sophisticated, which is very exciting. It's nice to be a technology partner and player in the space and see the evolution over time. And just real quick, B-Stock doesn't only participate in the mobile industry. B-Stock is just a large re-commerce platform, basically a stock exchange for recom. Goods of all shapes, sizes, types, OEMs, you name it, conditions. There's 18-wheelers of cheese curd all the way down to brand new iPhones on the platform. So we have a really weird and unique view of the resale market because it isn't just mobile that we play in. So we get to see trends and hear things from retailers and carriers and manufacturers and distributors. We've got a really wide reach and a wide set of customers that give us a lot of unique insights. So that's what I wanted to share with everyone today. So first of all, I'll talk about mobile kind of on the front end first. What do we see on the front end of mobile that's impacting the secondary market in 2024? I'll go through a few things real fast. The first is we're seeing kind of compression at the carrier sales level, meaning consumers aren't buying as many phones right now. There are not as many phones coming back. And it's really interesting to watch from our point of view because we want that stuff. Like, granted, we don't want there to be returns and broken things, but it's inevitable. So kind of new transactions drive a lot of the inventory that feeds this secondary market. So when the new side is down, we see the impact, delayed impact, but an impact in our world. And one of the things that I've been watching is just how the carriers have been marketing how they want to sell to you this year. And the message has kind of shifted. Like, you think back like 12 months, not even really, and it was trade in this and get this, trade in this and get this, trade in this and get this. You're not seeing that now. The advertisements are largely like lifestyle ads, a lot of celebrities, a lot of, ooh, this phone makes me happy. It's very much like family packs and bundles and things like that. And trade-in has actually kind of moved below the fold. As I was putting this deck together, I went through every carrier's deals section that they have right now, and trade-in was not heavily promoted. You can see this is actually AT&T, their current deals, and you can see like this is lead banner, they're number one in their rotator, and 2 out of the 3 of them are no trade-in required. When you look at the other carriers, a lot of the offers right now are bundles. You buy this phone, you'll get a watch and a tablet, and we'll give you a high five for free. And the trade-in promotion has really gone below the fold, which is a bit concerning for me because I think trade-in is a really powerful tool to drive new sales, and it really feeds our industry. And it's also responsible and ethical too. If you're going to get them a new phone, get that old one out of their hands and get it into the ecosystem. So this is a bit concerning for me, and we're definitely seeing the impact of slower new sales in the market. And by the way, most of you know me. If you have a question or a comment, just yell. Not going to bother me at all. Let's see. And then the other thing that we've seen a bunch, T-Mobile is buying some folks up. The consolidation of carriers is continuing. So, I'm sure you saw the Mint Mobile news. Now we have U.S. Cellular. So the big keep getting bigger. These folks don't necessarily consolidate like the operations and the resale right away. That doesn't just jump in, but the consolidation of what the consumers have access to is really getting to those big three. Everybody's fighting to catch the old AT&T. This is one of my favorite things. So I hope you didn't experience an outage this year. I did, but there were carrier outages. And I love, I have a weird sense of humor, as a lot of you know, but I love that the carriers like to go tit for tat, and there's this like rivalry between them. They're almost like mini cults. It's very fun to watch. And then, so the first thing, here, I'm gonna use this laser because I like lasers. So, obviously, there was a big AT&T outage in February, right? Impacted a lot of people, and it was just a result of some code updating that was done internally. Crazy reason, but it happened. And then I love that Verizon comes right over and is like, ooh, look at us. We're fully operational. We're the best. Like, we're totally awesome. Then 2 weeks ago, Verizon goes down, massive outage, and their response was, hey, if you're getting this outage, turn your phone off and on. It's probably your fault. Like, hey, did you reset the modem? Like, did you restart the computer? It's like the classic IT response, which I really got a kick out of this. But these outages actually like impact stock prices and impact how these companies react and where they focus their marketing and their messaging. So it's crazy, but things like this will change marketing and will impact trade-in and other things that drive inventory for us. So these forward things actually matter. They're funny, but they actually matter. So I'm going to flip over to our world now. Let's talk about what we see from our view on the re-commerce side. And no, I don't have a cool QR code at the end like Nick. I should have done that. I'm stealing that idea. But if you'd like a copy of some of this information, by all means, reach out. So what we're seeing as, things on the news side compress, obviously, but the carriers and, other OEMs, insurance providers, you name it, they're getting more sophisticated, a lot like what Nick was just talking about. They're going basically multi-channel with their resale. A higher mix of inventory is moving into direct-to-consumer channels. They're becoming way, way, way more smarter. Way more smarter? That sounds smart. Becoming smarter with the way that they disposition inventory. So that's not just like, hey, I'm going to take some of my best stuff and sell it on eBay. No, it's we need to reuse for customer replacements, or we want to sell in our prepaid mobile locations, or we want to actually sell it ourselves on e-commerce or other platforms. So there's certainly a sophistication that's going on to say, I need to get the most for these phones, so I need to figure out different selling methods. To Nick's point earlier, there's certainly a mix of inventory too, where the downstream is taking that work, where there's specific buyers, call it, or partners that live in the downstream that kind of open up that channel to let's call it like the source inventory providers, those that are getting them back from the consumer. So we've seen this kind of mix of inventory going B2C, growing and growing. Grab some water, hold on. Okay, better. The second thing is, it's crazy, but that life cycle of a phone continues to creep. I fear that when trade-in promotions become secondary or below the fold, this will also continue. But we're living in a world where it's like you're hanging onto a phone for 36 plus months. So we get to that part in the evolution where we'll comp over it and it'll become normal, but it is certainly extending. I didn't do that. There we go. The last two are things that I've been talking about, what feels like for a little too long. But certainly the eSIM is still impacting the downstream. We see, who is buying what product change because of eSIM. Certain markets that don't have eSIM, like our dear friends in Canada, those are more desirable in the secondary market. So they have a new unique advantage. So this eSIM is kind of evolving. It will most likely reach international markets. The new phones will eSIM there too. But it makes where I can fire up a phone a little more complicated. So this is another one of those where, having that smart downstream, somebody that small, medium buyers that really know their geography, really know what phones can work in their part of the world, that brings tremendous value into a resale platform. That's a competitive advantage. They may not be adding additional value to the device, but they have a unique downstream that can handle those eSIM devices. So this is just another one of those things that adds complication, but is an advantage for the wholesale buyer. It's not unlike the old CDMA, GSM days. That makes me feel old. The last is a word. I wish Larry were in here. I saw him earlier. The old device encumbrance. Yes, G. What's an encumbrance, you may ask? So what we've seen is there's an encumbrance is anything in like a data point in the background of a phone that says, I'm not going to work on this network, whether it's a finance lock, an OEM lock, some sort of weird MDM, that mobile device management. There's different things in the code of a phone that can make it not work on certain devices. Was that an acceptable definition, G? He's still confused. That's not surprising. So these encumbrances, we talked about it. Well, like Nick talked about it in the last thing, where with robotics and some of the service providers that are out there right now, they're able to ping all of the different networks, or at least most, and find out, okay, if I buy this phone, will it work? Will I be able to use it? Can I sell it to a consumer and they can fire it up? This is kind of a moving target. It's unfortunate, but it's real. And so the industry's kind of rallied around how do we bring that into the transaction? And what we're seeing is, as the robotics and different services are embraced by the resale folks in the room, and then even the upstream folks, that information is flowing into the transaction. So it's a much more transparent solution or experience for the wholesale buyer. Those are I'd say the big trends that we're seeing right now, along with what's happening on the forward side. I like talking about the major markets in re-commerce mobile as well. We're seeing a shift, and I will caveat this with, our data is a bit squishy in where the inventory goes, because there's layers in between due to regulatory issues and customer issues and things like that. But we have a pretty good pulse on where does this stuff go when it's sold through the platform. And what we've seen is a rise in two places. First of all, in the United States, the utilization of B2C markets to resell this stuff, it just keeps growing. You heard Walmart here this morning. They certainly want more of your inventory on their platform because the demand is there. So this demand is good. It's growing what the resale value is, which will eventually grow, trade-in values, lower your premiums for insurance and things like that. The other market that we continue to see grow and grow and grow, and we get a ton of outreach, is the Dubai market. Free trade zone in Dubai is very important. Big shift happened there during COVID, but it continues to be a market that is very important, and its reach into the rest of the world is growing. Hong Kong, I'd say, has been neutral to down, where some of those operations and companies have moved space to Dubai. There's just some uncertainty there, and I think as this business continues to evolve, companies are finding who are the players downstream. They don't have to play through big buyers. So the Hong Kong market has shrunk a little bit because people are reaching beyond it to find customers. Europe, I'd say, has been largely down and neutral. Different model, not subsidized on the phone. Trade-ins a little more widely accepted, but it's just kind of been there, in our opinion. So I'm going to blame Craig. Where's Craig? For the biggest earworm of the year, and that is the word hearables. We talk about it all the time. They're no longer headphones; they're hearables. So this has been huge expansion, especially in the last 18 months. Continue to see more and more wearables and hearables. Yes, I'm going to say hearables. It just continues to rise. I think as you see the carriers doing these bundled programs, returns and insurance claims of those devices will also continue to grow. So that's kind of one of the plus sides of carriers offering these bundles, is some of the other devices are coming in more frequently. The home and IoT things just continue to grow, much slower rate of growth. But we see, when we're looking at our partners and their forward sales and what they have in their stores, certainly see a focus on, I want to provide an experience for your whole home. I want to provide you an insurance plan for your whole home. That's your house, your security, your alarm, your cameras. I'll give you a phone protection plan, iPad protection plan, all that stuff. So as these kind of whole home sales and whole home protection plans grow, more of that inventory is coming along with the phones as they come back. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay, good. I saw one nod. So this is not the prettiest slide in the world. I apologize, but just kind of some inventory or some information from our market. Just little quick snippets of data that I look at. The fastest growing OEM, for a while it was OnePlus. We see huge demand overseas for pre-owned OnePlus, but Google has really popped up. The Google phones, they're doing a ton of advertising, and a lot of these models have been coming back. I show a bit of the U.S. concentration of where customers are, just because it's interesting, because it's kind of congregated either on where the stuff is or where it's going. Obviously, a lot of the phones that are returned, traded, broken, whatever, they come back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Sorry to the Mavericks. Any Celtics fans? I'm looking at one. Don't want to hear it. So DFW is kind of a home for a lot of these phones that come back to. And because of that, a lot of the demand, a lot of the buyers have concentrated around that area, but they serve all parts of the world. So Dallas-Fort Worth is, oddly enough, a very global export market for phones, very strategic place to be. But you can see there's concentration in the Northeast and Miami. A lot of that's going Central and South America. So even though there may not be direct international purchases on our platform a lot of times, you can tell where the inventory is going by where it lands in the United States, because it's just a jump off point for another market. The condition mix, I think, is really interesting too. The higher end, high grade product has certainly compressed as carriers utilize more of that stock or sell it direct to consumer. So what hits the B2B market is trending lower. But that's okay because the testing, grading, and robotics solutions that are being implemented provide a lot more clarity on what that inventory is. It's no longer, what was the phrase Seth used? It's not a grab bag of chaos anymore. It's very detailed what is included in that B grade. And with the work that the CTIA groups have done, setting kind of a standard and a guideline for grading, there's been a lot more trust here. I mean, it is night and day from 10 years ago when I started at B-Stock to where it is now. I mean, it was very fuzzy and squishy what folks were selling, and now it's very specific, QA documented, aligning to an industry standard. So this transition to lower grades actually doesn't scare me all that much. I think it's huge opportunity for buyers to add value, buyers to refurbish, to know exactly what's going on. So big advantage for the folks in the room. I always like to show too, just right after a phone launches, that bottom right there is some iPhone 15 data. As you all know, when a new phone is launched, it will hit the secondary market pretty darn fast. Someone will have day one buyer's remorse, and the value that these phones will get in the secondary market is nuts, because those that can export or sell them into markets that haven't received the new phones yet, they'll pay through the nose just to get it. So that's kind of the trends of what has happened. From a high level perspective, I'm going to talk Apple for the rest of the way here. The depreciation, this is somewhere's Joe. Joe puts this together for our team. Really great information. But we look at what is the average depreciation of an iPhone every month. And this goes all the way back to, 2021. And the last year was another one of those weird years where pricing was going up. Phones were not depreciating at all, which is very atypical. And there was decent supply in the market. It wasn't a constraint market, but it was highly competitive, and pricing was going way up. This year, aside from basically a market correction in January, we all have, there's a certain carrier that loves to dump inventory on the back half of a year, did that last year. You can see the aggressive drop there in November, but the market actually rebounded the price a bit in January, said, whoa, we overreacted. So this year has looked much more like a typical depreciation, the nice, easy slide of about 80 basis points a week type depreciation. So getting kind of back to what we would call a normal market for this, where it's somewhat predictable. To that end, I wanted to show this is chaotic on purpose. This is some of our predictive data. So I talked about this last year, so we've had a year to kind of grow it, mature it, but we're using AI and machine learning models, multiple models that actually teach each other how to predict prices in the secondary market. And depending on how much data is there, the confidence gets higher and higher, obviously. But the machine learning tools that are available right now, the sophistication's incredible. So we're able to look ahead, specifically to support sellers in our network that run trade-in programs. This kind of data is really useful to say, okay, if I know I'm selling 90% of my inventory B2B, once it comes back through, what is it going to be selling for in 12 weeks? Give me a ballpark of what that is, and we'll set our marketing and our trade-in values accordingly. So this is an example of some of the predictive data on this right side. This is iPhone 12 Pro Max, and we're getting into we're getting into iPhone launch here toward the end of this. And what the model is saying is that this launch looks pretty predictable. With an older SKU, it's not too dramatic. It's going to fall, but it's not too dramatic on something that's, several generations out. Now, when we look at an iPhone 14, something that's newer, it's going to have a bigger impact when the new iPhone comes out, and the model is seeing that as well. So this band here, the coloring around it is kind of the confidence interval. So you can see when we're looking at, this is C and D grade inventory here. We take, to a quick explainer, we take all the grading that our customers use and map it on the back end as close as we can to an A, B, C, D, E type level. So this is C and D here, the green and red, and it's a pretty strong prediction there. It's saying with high confidence that that's going to be in that band. So a bit more aggressive on the 14, a bit flatter on the 12, but way more like what we would expect when a new iPhone comes out. And this is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of data points across inventory that is coming from carriers, OEMs, processors, resellers, you name it. It's all pumped into the system here to come up with these predictions. So pretty interesting stuff, just kind of looking at the iPhone launch that's ahead of us. So that was all I prepared today. Thank you for letting me talk turkey. Questions?
Thank you, Sean. I have a question regarding the concerning thing you talked about with the shift in strategies for trade-in in the telecom world. Do you have any insights on the customers' behavior? Will their devices simply collect dust?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the question was, given this shift away from trade-in, do we have any insight into what will the device that the consumer would have traded in, what would they do? My hope is that they still trade it in, that the store still offers it, even though the deal isn't what got them in the door. But yeah, the threat is that they don't even walk in with that old phone, or they keep and they go, you know what, I'll just go sell it on eBay later, and then it just goes into a drawer. I know I've done that before. I don't have direct view of to what the consumer is doing there, but it seems pretty clear that there's certainly a compression in the new sales, and the amount of inventory coming back to the re-commerce market is even more exaggerated. So it's likely that they're just not trading it at all. And the consumer's getting smart too. I think a lot of them are. GameStop is a customer of ours, and they're constantly thinking about, how do we get a trade in, because they're not a carrier. It used to be that kids would bring mom's old phone to get an Xbox, but now they're kind of competing online for like, how do I get them in the door? How do I give a better value? Because consumers are going and they understand trade in now, and they're going and looking up values before they walk into a store. So it's nice that there's better awareness for trade in. I just wish it were promoted. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So what about, I'm always watching Apple stock the last couple of weeks, right? And so clearly someone thinks there's going to be a massive super cycle. And so when we're talking about lower trade-ins, can we just be completely wrong about that?
We could be completely wrong. I think I wouldn't say that it's going to be lower trade-in units per se. I think the value of trade-in will depreciate like normal, but the units will most likely climb. Why are you laughing, kid?
Because by we, he meant you. Could you be completely wrong?
I can be completely wrong all the time. It's happened at least once that I know of.
Multiple presenters have been talking about the industry shrinking. And I guess what I'm saying is that can also reverse very rapidly.
Totally, yeah. All it takes is one good release, and the market is flooded with trade-ins. All it takes is one good promo, and it's flooded. I mean, last time I traded in my phone was like, hey, get the 15 Pro free when you do yada yada yada. Boom, I'm in. So I think with the right activity, Apple's clearly going to create plenty of phones. Like the supply is not going to be an issue. It's getting butts in the door to make that exchange. I hope that it's a good release. I need it. I'm comping a little low. Yes, sir.
Hey, Sean, Mark Van Der Hagen, Salvi. So since Nick asked you that question, I kind of have a fun question with it, right? Spreadsheets, old school, auctions, a little better, on demand, real time, selling of devices. What does B-Stock think about that? Because clearly Nick was trying to throw you under the bus a little bit.
Yeah.
He did it very carefully.
No, Nick's not wrong. I tend to agree with him. I think that the way units enter the secondary market is absolutely evolving, and you have to know how to engage. We just refer to them as tranches, all the tranches of demand that are out there. There are methods that really work for the big buyers. We get that. A carrier has so much velocity that they've got to move stuff all the time right now. So there's methods that really work well for that. But at the same time, do they have capacity to engage spot transactions or pre-made boxes of inventory from a system where they're just clicking to fill a box? Absolutely. I think that the way inventory reaches the secondary market will evolve, and we are evolving as well. Auction isn't the only trick in our bag. Is it the most utilized? Absolutely. The tricky part, and I'm sure Nick has experienced this, the product that we're selling doesn't have a retail value. The market kind of decides what they want to pay. So up to today, auction has been the most efficient way to figure out what is this thing worth. The challenge when you start getting into build it yourself or customized transaction models is you have to get the buyer to extract what they're willing to pay. And that becomes a little bit trickier when it's just kind of a, hey, put in a number. Both ends start to hedge. So just like the hockey puck goes to the edges, that happens in that match model too. Now, I think there's ways to utilize AI and machine learning to tighten that band, to tell a seller like, no, the market value is blank. We've pulled this information from other markets. You should go here, see if buyers are willing, or almost you have percentage variances. There's ways to get there, but it's evolving. It's all going to change. So, yeah, I do not disagree with Nick at all. I think he's totally right. This is going to evolve.
Like you mentioned in the U.S. market, that B2C is becoming more popular, that the wholesale prices have gone up. Can we deduct from that the consumer in the U.S. is willing to pay more money now for pre-owned product?
Absolutely. I mean, it spiked in 2020, and it's kind of stayed in that world. I know somebody that has data to prove that too. Yes, Lori.
So AI obviously is such an important, critical component of how we fix the trade-in, the sustainability impacts that we have in mobility. Is this data available or AI kind of learning available for outside B-Stock clients through licensing? Because I think part of the problem is everybody has bits and pieces, platform and data and AI, but how do we bring it together to really make an impact?
You're sitting next to the right guy too. Yeah.
Well, because I'm asking, is this just for B-Stock clients?
Today it is. Yeah. Today some of that data is we're utilizing it to help the clients with their business model, right? Would it be something that's public eventually? Sure. I don't know what that path looks like yet. Like it's got to evolve. I love AI. That's on the internet now, so they won't come after me later. But I'm still skeptical, right? I still want to human monitor the results and train it. So I think there's still, AI and machine learning in our world is still pretty new. So want to monitor and push on it a bit before we just blow it out there.
I also think too, like the warranty policies, and I know there's a lot of
Totally.
but warranty kind of conflicts with trade-in, right? Because if 2-year Apple carry is a pressure in or 2-year, and it keeps you in the device.
Yep.
And I don't know about anybody else, but the 15 Pro Maxes, everyone in my family has a back. And it's like $600 to
Yeah, totally. I mean, it will reach a point where we all have to come together and say, okay, let's join some of this data, because like the repair cost of that, and what is the insurance deductible versus what is the trade-in value versus what is the current B2C value, what's the current B2B, all kind of brings that efficiency in, again, moves the money to the outside, so you know exactly what to do. Yep. Well, I'm end on time, but thank you everyone for attending. Appreciate you.